So this is a little PowerShell script that tells you if a site is responding. You can check a server with a ping, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the site is responding. And so this will help you determine if the site is responding and kind of monitor that. First thing that we're going to do is open up PowerShell. Here we're just going to ping a site. In this case, I'm going to ping google.com. And here you can see I get an IPv6 address back, but it doesn't really tell me if the site is responding. The way to tell if a site is responding is to use a curl command. Here I'm going to curl google.com. And what it's going to do is it's going to scrape some stuff off the page. I'm going to get a status code of 200. 200 means that the site is responding okay. It's nominal. And there's even there a raw content return for HTTP. You see again 200. So we know the site is responding, and we can even see some of the code that comes off the page. One return is okay, but if we want to set up some type of monitoring, we're going to need this to loop over and over again and give us these results so we can check to make sure things are running as they're supposed to be. So to write a loop, we're going to use while, then open parentheses, and then $true, and then -eq, and then $true again, and then close parentheses. Then we're going to go space, and then a curly bracket, and then we're going to use that curl command. So we're going to put in curl google.com, and then we're going to do a pipe. And what pipe does is it takes the output of one command and sends it to the input of another command. So we're going to input that to a filter. That filter command is findstr or find strings. We're going to have it search for a particular string, and then we're going to choose a string from this output. So I like to use StatusCode. You could also use something like raw content. So I'm going to put in StatusCode as my string I'm looking for. I'm going to put in quotations. So I'm going to put a semicolon because I want to check every 5 seconds. So I'm going to use a sleep command and say 5 for 5 seconds, and then I'm going to do the closed curly bracket. Then if I hit enter, you can see it returns a status code of 200, so we know the site's okay, and it checks it every 5 seconds, so it just continuously loops. Now you can go ahead and stop the video right here. That's probably the bulk of the content, but what I want to show is what the error looks like when it errors out. So what I've done here is I've just changed my local host file to override a DNS query for the domain name example.com. So rather than getting example.com from the DNS services, I'm actually saying, I'm giving it an IP address saying for example.com and www.example.com, use this specific IP address. And this is an IP address of a computer I've set up that has a test website. I can open up a browser, and then I can just go to example.com just to show you that it is a live and working website, just a WordPress sample site. So for illustration purposes, you can see here, this is the Linux server. I have my site running, example.com. This is the folder. And you can see I can navigate into the vhosts of example.com and see the contents of the WordPress just to show you that it is running on this server. And then I can ping example.com, and then the IP address is different because it's, I think, pointing to the cloud load balancer that was spun up with this stack. Yeah, so we're going to substitute the IP address here for the server, not the load balancer. So just real quickly, I'm going to copy the IP address of the actual cloud server. I'm going to go to my host file and then replace this IP address for example.com in my host file for the IP address of the cloud server, not of the cloud load balancer. And then I'm going to save it, go File, Save. So now I can ping example.com again, example.com, and now you can see I get the actual IP address of the server, not the address that was before. Going back to the browser just real quick, going to do a refresh of example.com, just make sure the site's still responding. So if I go back to the Linux server where the site is running and I do a directory listing in ls, we can see that Nginx is the service that's serving up the web page. So that's a service we're going to want to start and stop to kind of simulate a site going offline and then coming back online. To do that, I'm going to type service nginx stop. So then if I go back to PowerShell, I can ping example.com, and the ping responds fine because we're pinging a network card. However, if I do a curl example.com, you can see I get a very nasty, ugly looking error message. If I go back to the server and I type service nginx start, and then I just simply do an up arrow and do curl example.com, you can see now the site's responding 200 okay. So then if I go up in my command history and to our little script here, and then I replace google.com with example.com, hit enter, you can see I'm getting status code 200. And in the interest of time, I'm going to just change this sleep value from 5 to 1. And so then it's going to check every 1 second. We're going to let that run. Then we're going to go over to our server here and type service nginx stop. And if we go back over to PowerShell, we can see we're getting an error message, which is indicated that something's wrong. In this case, it's just the software saying it can't find the string status code. If I go back over to the server and I'm going to type service nginx start. If I go back over to PowerShell, you can see the status code is 200 and the site's back up. So hopefully this was helpful in determining if you have a site that's up or down. And thanks for watching, and we'll be talking to you soon.